just came to play for the money. On 7 good ponies and some damn good swing.
Hi everyone, welcome to the 4th Swan Cup video podcast. My name is Alex Wrobel from the Inverell Polocrosse Club, and we're going to endeavour to complete a podcast every week in the lead up to the 2021 Inverell Swan Cup. I'm the president of the Inverell Polocrosse Club, and we're going to use this podcast to provide you with information about the Swan Cup and meet the people behind the scenes who will help to make our event a success. The Swan Cup will run from the 8th to the 11th of July 2021, and our open men's polocrosse and sale nominations open on the 19th of April and close on the 10th of May 2021. I'm here with club member and leader of our Swan Cup, Cameron Neville. How you going, Cameron?
Terrific, mate. Great to be here.
And our special guest this week is Mark Barton from Nutrien Equine. Thanks for joining us, Mark. How you going?
No, really well, mate. Thanks for having us.
First of all, thank you, Mark, for coming on board as our agents as Nutrien and doing a podcast with us for the Swan Cup. To get us started, for anyone that doesn't know you out there, where are you from?
Mate, you live in Wagga, have done for the past 20 years nearly now. So you're just a little bit out of town. We're about 15 k's east of Wagga.
Yeah, rightio. And how long have you been involved in the horse industry?
Yeah, well, I guess from a past time, like my family grew up with horses, and we've always had an involvement, whether it was as kids, through the pony club thing, and then, went away. I think probably a bit like Cameron, you go and chase a football for a while, and then come back to it when you realise your bones are a bit slow, or you lack commitment and ability, and you found something else. So horses have been part of what we've always done, but over the past 15 years, we've managed to turn that pastime into part of our business, which I guess I'm passionate about them. So it's something that's it comes easy. Like, it's a lot of work, but it's something that I do it in my spare time anyhow. Yeah.
And we've all seen the classic at Tamworth evolve from a sale to a complete event that people, they permanently have it on their calendars. It's not even a question of whether they, whether they're going to go or not. Like, they're going regardless of what's happening. And can you talk about what you think the reasons are behind its success?
Look, I think, and we learned how to do it. Like, when we came into it, we were agents that, look, Charlie Murray and I, we had a reason to want to create a sale. As time went on, I think we're reasonably good at being agents. We understood the process and the steps that went into that. But as time went on, you really hung on by the tail as it evolved, and to learn how to run an event. And I think that's the really special part of it. Like, this year more than ever, that the need for regional, rural, like-minded people to get together and enjoy each other's company as much as win a draft, or as much as win a polocrosse tournament, or sell a horse for a lot of money. I think that social interaction and that the camaraderie and the family that's around the performance horse industry is, I think that's what makes it special.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, it is something that people want to be a part of. It's something they want to sell a horse so they can go back and go in the different competitions and things, and they want to buy one so they can enter them as well. And I suppose that's what Cameron and I are hoping to the Swan Cup to become as well.
I think what people always do is you try and create something new. And I'm the first to say, look, we saw what Magic Millions did when they, revolutionised the way that the gallops, and the thoroughbred market looked at their marketing and their production. And ultimately, people that breed horses are primary producers. But if you've got a reason to value add, or sell horses younger so you can actually get a return on investment, look, I take my hat off to Singo and Jerry Harvey and their team of people that created that model. That there's no secret. We looked at, how can we try and replicate that in our sport, or in the sport of camp drafting? And I think what you guys are looking at, Cameron and I have spoken about this before. Australia have a number of really unique Australian disciplines that we're good with horses. Now, you talk the Spaniards; they can do anything with a horse, or the Mexicans can do great things with horses. The Australians, polocrosse is probably one of the few international stages that great horsemen and women and great Australian horses actually get showcased globally. And I think what we do in camp draft, what we do in polocrosse, polo, what we've achieved as a nation in equestrian, I think they're great things that we can, if we can incentivize people and get that, it's an emotional connection with horses. And I think if you can create that bond, I think that's a really important part of the, an important piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, for sure.
Mate, I just want to talk to you about the classic and the success you've had down there and getting it off the ground. And did you always plan on having a draft with your first classic sale? Like I know that you didn't run ones alongside it. Was it just more of a tester to see how many horses you got and to see how many would come? Like we're at that stage where we're trying to get off the ground. And I want to go back to your roots where you got off the ground.
Look, I think it's an important one. We're actually, without boring people that might watch this, look, Charlie and I actually, we had a livestock golf day at Dubbo, and Charlie was actually, one good thing about Charlie, he was a way worse golfer than me. I think he lasted 3 holes and went back to the car and made phone calls. And we talked about it. We had a boss at the time who'd come out from New Zealand. He'd previously been the CEO of Dulux Paints in New Zealand. And when we talked about this camp draft concept, it was trying to talk to an alien, like he didn't understand horses, let alone camp draft. And when we talked about what it was about, he just said, look, he said, I love Andrew Denton and I'll give you enough rope. He said, I want my money back in 3 years. And I think, honestly, we modelled up a 5-year business plan that was give him his money back, but improve the brand at the time of West Farmers. It was West Farmers Dalgety was in that AWB merger. And we said, look, we'll get you your money back. And we thought if we really did it well, we'd get to 330 horses. But I think that the key thing, where you guys are at the start is be confident enough to fail and fail fast. Like learn from your mistakes, because we've made plenty of things. We've got things wrong, but we've tried not to be arrogant, like listen to people. And what Mark thinks is a good idea may not necessarily always be the right answer, but I know when we talked about getting involved with you guys, we like the idea of dealing with a small committee of people that actually are accountable because there's no one to pass the buck to and they get stuff done. And I think that's what the Swan Cup and Inverell, as a small team of people that are going to work hard to make it happen. I think that's where hopefully our brand now stands for. It's not about the financial impact. It's more that if we say we get involved, we hopefully get behind the right causes, but we actually do what we say and we work hard with the people to grow something. And I think that's what's exciting. And like I say, for me, polocrosse is a great Australian sport that probably doesn't get the limelight that it deserves. And like I say, we watch the Olympians and what Australia can produce there once every 4 years. You guys are doing it every week or through probably the off season for the camp draft world. And polo's probably had notoriety because it's had some really good high profile or well invested with some pretty well heeled people. It's bread and butter, mum and dads and families, which I think that's what our performance horse equine business has been built around.
Yeah, no, for sure, 100% agree there, mate. Now, yourself, I went and did the same as you, sort of chased a bit of a different angle, tried to play a game of footy and do all that sort of stuff and come back and even in the camp drafting world, but I found it more than evident in the polocrosse world, is I've come back now and, there used to be a hatful of decent horses getting about, stuff like that, but the standard of the polocrosse at right now and the standard of the horses were probably shown at the highest at the World Cup. But I think you'll find that what the polocrosse people are trying to do is not say copy camp drafting, but we're following in the same steps, but we've still got our own sport and what we're doing there. But you seem to improve your sale and event every year. Polocrosse is improving their event and their quality of gamesmanship and their horses. Is there a limit to anything? Like, is the sky the limit? And like, I know we dream big, we'd love to have a thing like yours, but does the classic ever get too big and you need to look for other sales like us?
Look, I think the really important thing is, we've still got a 3-horse limit at Tamworth for our long-standing vendors. So you're asking those guys that have been with us for 15 years to just send their 3 most suited, not necessarily just their best, but their most suited horses to Tamworth. And I think that's where we've seen, the business at Toowoomba's grown, for that April, May sort of market, where you've got some of the same vendors sending horses there, broodmares, yearlings, some ridden horses. We went online last year because we had to, but we had record prices from that. Like, we're learning all the time. And I think one of the things I've talked to a lot of people, and it's not a secret, we've got in April, it's been a couple of years building on it, but we've got a standardbred sale for trotters, pacing standardbred horses. And we've got 300 of those in Melbourne. And ultimately, people want liquidity. I want to buy a horse, I want to race it if that's what it is, and then I want to be able to get some return on that and then get in and out. And the same whether it's a camp draft horse that we've got now, where we're probably gone from the old Dolby days of selling a 7, 8, 9-year-old horse, where the ultimate horse is probably a 3-year-old filly now for our market, which I think that's great for the person breeding horses. There's liquidity. And I think with what you guys are about, that ultimate, the ultimate competitive gelding, for argument's sake, is, what is he, 8, 9, 10-year-old? You're probably being able to engage that buyer in that horse at probably 3, 4, 5-year-old. So for the breeders or the primary producer that's got that raw product, which your sport needs, just like harness racing needs people breeding standardbreds, polocrosse players need a quality horse if they want to be competitive. If you can turn that over as a 4-year-old rather than a 7 or 8-year-old, you can invest more in genetics, and I think that's a really positive thing for your sport. And I think that's what you guys are.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I was going to say what I think you guys are embarking on. I think if you say, where do we see the opportunity? I see the opportunity for the sport to evolve because quality young horses are being offered earlier. Sometimes horses that may not have been offered for sale because of the incentives around it. And I think that potentially draws people to your sport.
Yeah. Like, I think definitely we're working on drawing them horses and also the people with it. We're trying to get the camp drafter that may have had a game when he was a kid but never did much out of pony club, and he might find another way to sell a horse, and all of a sudden he says to his kids, well, we're going, why don't you pick up the racket and we buy your horse and you come back and play, and things run off from there. Like, we're just trying to grow our club, our zones, our states, and polocrosse as a general figure, I suppose. And then, if we can run off the back of someone like Nutrien and the power they have with the equine business, and and the Australian Stock Horse Society as well, it just should all work. But everyone's just nervous about it being our first time.
I think one thing which is really important, like when we started, there was the perception of if your horse won't make it in a certain discipline, and let's say the horse didn't go any good at cutting, I will sell him into the camp draft market, or the horse does no good at camp drafting, we'll sell him into a polocrosse player. Like, I think there's versatile horses that can do more than one thing. I think there's also a horse that actually gets a foundation. Like, I see what our challenge event's done for people, putting a solid foundation, like a lifelong foundation on a young horse, whatever they want to do in the performance world afterwards. And I think that's probably one really key message, that the horses I know you guys are after, they're not the horses that don't suit something else. They're actually the horses that are well suited to this. Like, I know, like, great mate of mine, Ian Laurie, has said, look, for years, probably in the 80s, 90s, when he was playing a lot of polocrosse, he said, look, that my best polocrosse horses were my best camp draft horses. They could do both because they had a solid foundation. And I think that's probably one or two people have asked me, what horse do I put into polocrosse? Like, what am I looking for? I said, look, I'll probably ask you guys, what makes a great polocrosse horse if you're looking to go and buy, or if you're a vendor considering putting a horse in our sale, what are the desirable traits for a young horse that would make a suitable polocrosse pony at 7, 8, 9?
Exactly the same traits, mate, that we look for when we're trying to buy one to go for it to draft. You know, we all want him well educated. We all want him stopping nice, turning left and right, and easy to handle. It's just that ours is probably a bit more of an endurance sport. You know, that can be the difference. And look, we only got one hand, and someone else is trying to give you a touch up with the racket. You know, so you've got to be able to do it. And there's no doubt that the skill level of some of these blokes playing, men and women, is unbelievable with one hand. So, you know, I certainly give it to some of my camp draft friends around here now that, you know, they can go and chase a cow with two hands and try and put it around a few pegs, but we got to galloping up and down the field with one hand and 6 other fellas flogging you.
And I guess that the thing is too for that guy, like you touch on that I'm one of those people since Pony Club days as a kid. That's the last time I actually played around with a racket. Yeah, and actually, yeah, we played around with it. And I was left-handed, so I was never going to try and hit a polo mallet real well. And I wasn't held well with the mallet or the checkbook that went with that sport. So I guess it's interesting when you talk to people like what is it that makes a good polo cross pony, and I think that's look, we see down in my world you've got those Barragoon horses, and you know you see those Grills kids come out at Holbrook Draft once a year and give us all a touch up on the same horses that they're probably giving you a hard time playing polo cross on a weekend. So
I think that one of the key things that Cameron mentioned too is you know that we're looking for all the same qualities, but I think the biggest difference that we're looking for is that endurance. And we need that horse, you know, that's going to turn up, play 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday, and potentially, you know, that 4th game on Sunday is going to be your final, where you're going to, you know, where you're coming up against your hardest competitor for the whole weekend, and you just need that horse that's going to give you everything in that moment. So I think that's the key difference between some of your horses from camp draft, and we're looking for all the same bits of talent. We just need that, you know, that horse that's going to give us everything for that longer amount of time.
I was just going to ask you, like, this year was obviously a massive year with a sale result at the Classic, and you'd nearly think that, well, I've heard it from 3 or 4 different people, like they're all going home to revalue their horses and what you think they could be making. But realistically, like our sale, we hope, you know, is a success and gets off the ground. And we do have them horses that make that 20, 40, you know, even 50,000 would be awesome. But yeah, a general run of the mill polocrosse horse at the moment, sort of 5 to 10,000 that can get you onto the field. Like we're not trying to scare them away by saying that the market could be too dear, but you'd have to think with what's going on that it's a good time to sell a horse.
No doubt. I think it's like I was at a mate's place drafting lambs yesterday, and he said, I'm seeing the value of my work dogs, you know, just a good sheepdog, you know, that people have all of a sudden realised that value. And I said, look, I think it's time and ability that and no disrespect to the person that can't train a horse themselves, but I think people have worked out, like someone said to me, you know, when's a young horse properly started? And the bloke said, 100 hours in the saddle, not tied up, but 100 hours of riding. And I said, look, there's blokes that can do that in a fortnight because they're riding a horse all day. And there's people who'll be flat to put 100 solid hours on a horse in a year, and not because they don't have the ability, they just don't have the time. And I know with my work commitments, I still start my own horses, but I'm proud to say I'm sending them to people that are better than me at actually getting them that foundation, because I don't have the miles for them that they need. And I think people are prepared to pay for that. And I think the COVID, strong cattle market, good season, that all made probably my biggest challenge is how do we manage expectations this time in 12 months at Tamworth. But I think in your market, what are the real values of someone that puts 200 or 300 hours in a young horse that turns up at your sale? Like what's that really worth? If you paid a young fella to go and ride your horse out to work every day, or ride him, properly expose him to the right things, get him the sort of foundation you want, but $300, $400 a week, you know, seriously, there's probably $10,000 worth of training in some of these ponies.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
My next question, Mark, so with our incentives when players come back, we've got a points cap on our team that can enter, which I think is a great thing, because it can bring anyone into the market who, myself included. I'm not the highest rated player out there, but if there's a team that's got 36 points that we can turn up, that's an average 6 points per player. If I could potentially play again alongside some of the highest level players. How would you see, as someone, from the outside who may have come up, may have had a little bit of a taste of polocrosse as a kid, how would you see that as a reason or incentive to go, oh, maybe I could have a crack at that sort of thing?
Look, I think it's a really good question, and it's probably same as we found with the challenge. How do I get involved? What's expected of me? And if you said to me, prattle off the rules of polocrosse again, for me, like I say, I'm talking 35, probably nearly 40 years ago since I had a play around with it. People like me, look, it's probably just revisiting what the key rules are, what you can't do, so that you know how to actually behave on the paddock, I suppose. Like you go out there and you I suppose safety is a pretty important part of it. If I'm going to go there, I think that for people that don't remember the intricate parts of the rules, what's acceptable behaviour, what can I do, what can't I do, are there restrictions on the way where you can position your 1 or 2 or 3 on the field, things like that. So how does the throwing work? What's not acceptable? I think if you guys said these are the basics that a refresher, I suppose, I think that'd be useful. And then I suppose the other thing is, for me, I think, okay, I better get a pony that can actually do this, or go and buy one. It's fine to go and buy a horse that can play. You could give me your best horses, and I'd be thinking, shit, I've still got to catch the ball. Then we've got to get the ball in the net and actually do something with it. And the tactics of the game, I think probably it's one of those sports, probably a bit like camp draft. You can do it well after you pass your best as an athlete or as a footballer. I think I think that's what engages a lot of people in, whether it's golf or tennis or whatever. People love the competition.
I think it's one of those.
Yeah, mate. Well, I seem to think, mate, that if someone is prepared to come along and look at our sport, like a Swan Cup would be a showpiece to come and look at. You're going to get to see the absolute best men playing in some high quality teams, and you're going to get to see, the safety aspects of it. Like, they're riding horses worth a bit of money. They look after them. They're prepared the best they can be prepared. They're actually, even though they're quite aggressive on the field, they're actually doing it in the right way. And then I hope people actually make an effort to come and watch that. And then while they're there, get involved in our own little world in a matter of a few days, and, just get polocrosse on their mind. And they think, well, I am here now. Maybe I do buy a horse, and geez, I'd like to come back and, just get that. Like if you're at the US, if you're at the Australian Open at the moment, all you want to do is think about tennis. I just think if we can get them people to actually come and watch these top blokes, then I think it should have a flow-on effect. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing in your favour, it's fast, it's exciting, it's easy to understand who's leading the game. Like it's far more user friendly than what camp draft is or cutting is, or they've got darts and lawn bowls on telly. So I think you can engage an audience. I think the other thing which I think engages a lot of people in, whether it be challenge or camp draft at our event at Tamworth, is there's a lot of these young kids that get exposed to some of the top end people, and those people have got personalities or they're recognised now. So in your sport, probably showcasing who those top talents are, and that the young kids aspire to be like them and get to know who they are, and you create personalities. And I think that's what some of the professional sports, rugby league and cricket and tennis, and these guys do that really well. And that kid that's 14 or 15 who's talented, look, I want to be like that person. And I think that's probably another step for you guys. Swan Cup, what is it? How do I get involved? But who's that young up and comer, or who's that really talented person? Hang on, they're no different to me. They're actually decent. Yeah, people that have shown the pathway that they've gone through and why they've become talented. I think, yeah, we talk about, I think talking like, again, back into harness racing and some of these other areas, how does a young person that shows an interest get involved in those sports? You know, they need, it's a hard track to get in. Whereas I think in the likes of polocrosse, well, how do we get those people involved?
I think the amazing thing about polocrosse is, you know, Cameron was up at the World Cup watching polocrosse with me in 2019, and our safety barrier where people can sit beside the field is only 3 meters. There's no fence. There's nothing in between you and those horses on the field. And, you know, the atmosphere sitting there at that World Cup watching the final, and you got the 2 most talented countries in the world going hard at it. And they, like I said, they're 6 meters away from you, flat Bicky down the field. And to me, there's no other sport that gets you that close to the action that can make you have that good of a time. And, you know, camp drafting, you can sit on the rail and you can do those things, but, you know, to turn around and look at a polocrosse game and be that close to it is just incredible to me. And I don't know if you've seen much polocrosse in your lifetime, Mark, or not, but it's just on another level in my mind.
And I probably have to be honest that the games that I've watched have been, you know, I guess the base standard, you know, like your local clubs, you know, a couple of local clubs having a bash, and there's a fair bit of passion in some of those games too. But, you know, if I look back, I guess, you know, my family, my father and his brothers, that they were We Wore Polocrosse Club when they were young blokes back in the you know, the 50s and 60s, you know. So we went away and did other things, I suppose. But I know, like, when you look at it, it was as big as camp drafting probably in the 60s.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the sport of camp draft's really grown. But I think polocrosse has been that bread and butter sport that's been a staple for a lot of rural communities, hasn't it? You know, a lot of regional Australia's, you know, had a lot of fun, and kids have grown up around it. So I think it's a great add-on for our business. And I think it's probably a bit like I was saying to people about harness racing. It's a reintroduction for a lot of people.
Definitely.
Yep. No, I just hope that they get behind it, and I hope just that the public get behind it. I know Nutrien have really got our back, and we appreciate everything they've done for us so far, and very professional in what they do. And you can see that with what happens at the Classic. And then we got the Stockhorse Society who have really put some, you know, they've got behind us as well. And, you know, we just hope that the polocrosse community and outside, you know, get the horses there and get involved in our event.
Yeah, and I think it's first time people are going to be interested to know. There's not been a lot of stuff on, so I think that's probably a positive, that people are looking for somewhere to go and something to see. And I think it's at a time of year where, you know, probably your central northern Queensland guys are starting to get busy camp drafting, but there's a bit of a recess for some other performance horse disciplines in your time slot. So I think it makes for a good opportunity coming out of winter and into, you know, the back end of winter, back into spring, where there's horses you can buy. And, you know, just because you're buying to play polocrosse doesn't mean you might be able to do something else with them as well. You know, they can, you know, take them to a show. There's going to be, I think, a good cross section, and the early indications from some of these good breeders of horses that they want to give it a shot and see if there's another avenue to promote their horses.
Yeah, for sure, mate. And with us having these incentives, it only means that we have to, like, we're not a one night stand. You know, we're there next year, we're there the year after, we're there the year after that. It's just not as though we're just going to have one off and never come back. You know, we're trying to put all our eggs in one basket, and we're going to back it up.
Look, our business is always, if we get involved in something, we look at it 3 years. You try something. You learn from your mistakes, you do it again, you try and get it right, and hopefully the third year you've listened to the market and you've actually got something established that has longevity. So, like, our approach by being involved is not, well, let's see how this goes. It's, look, we're in for it for the long haul for 3 years, and in 3 years, you know, I believe you've got an opportunity, and that the time slot's right, that the committee you've got want it to happen, and I think that's a recipe. If you've got the right people behind you and a good committee of people, things get done. So no, we're excited about it, and I think it's also, like I say, we can't sell them all at Tamworth, we can't sell them all at Toowoomba. So it gives people that are preparing numbers of horses a February market, an April market, and then a late winter coming into spring market. I think it's it makes a lot of sense.
Definitely.
Appreciate your time, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much for coming along, Mark. And just a reminder before we go, for all those people, the event will run on the 8th to the 11th of July 2021, and our open men's polocrosse and sale nominations open on the 19th of April and close on the 10th of May. Mark, Barton, thanks for your time.
No, my pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me, and we look forward to working closely over the next few months.
Will do. Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you, mate.
So get your team together, get fired up. So I can have a chop at you at the Inverell Swan Cup.